We have a list of powertrain improvements and technologies that I'll cover with you. But first of all, just to restate the goals. First of all, improve fuel economy, improve performance, drivability, and then also add capability so that we can support the added payload and the trailer towing capability. So let's start with the legendary Hemi. Variable valve technology here. And we have a broad range of performance, avoiding the peakiness or lag that may exist in the turbocharged engine. We have 410 pound-feet of torque, 395 horsepower, and we're introducing our eTorque mild hybrid technology. First in the industry, in this market segment, at this voltage level 48 volt system, and also to this extent. So in terms of this technology, what we're doing is we've replaced the conventional alternator. So we now have a heavy duty motor generator unit, and it's paired with what we call a power pack unit. It's a 48 volt power pack unit, lithium ion. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But with that system, we've got basically four things that we're doing. First of all, as I said, we've replaced the generator, so we're now supporting the 12 volt battery and the 12 volt charging system with our eTorque system. And so that's one of the first key functions. Secondly, we are now offering engine start-stop functionality. And the beauty of this configuration is that it's faster and it's smoother, so that when you restart the engine, compared to a 12 volt starter-based system, for example, the engine starts up very quickly, less than half a second, very smooth and seamless for the driver. The other thing we're doing is we're able to boost torque and blend torque. And so from the standpoint of how we're able to use this motor, just to give you an example, during the start-stop functionality, we can boost up to 130 pound-feet of torque during an auto start, 16 horsepower. The fourth functionality that we have here is what we call regen. So if you're decelerating or light braking, we're able to regen the energy and basically charge feed that 48 volt power pack unit. Other ways that we're using the boosting and the blending, if you think about shift transitions, and even with our deceleration fuel shutoff, we can now use that feature all the way into third gear because of the enabling contribution of this mild hybrid system. So relative to the 48 volt power pack, you don't see it here, but it's mounted interior to the cabin. It's on the rear face of cab behind the seat, so it's not compromising the cargo area. It is a 12-cell lithium-ion, nickel, manganese, cobalt chemistry in those cells. It's about the size of a small suitcase or a briefcase, and again, it's mounted on that back wall. So it has the benefit of the conditioned temperature in the occupant compartment, but it also has dual fans that are also there to provide cooling. So as far as fitting this motor, obviously we had to change the front end accessory drive. So we now have a dual plane configuration, 2 tensioners. We have an 8-rib belt now that's a high-strength belt to be able to handle the bidirectional torque that our heavy-duty motor generator is providing. So again, focused on fuel economy and efficiency, but also drivability and performance improvements. What I'd like to do now is walk just past you, and let's talk a little bit about the transmissions here. So all of the Ram trucks will be offered with this 8-speed automatic transmission. This configuration here is a ZF transmission. Changes for the new Ram, for example, we have added a hydraulic accumulator. It's a key contribution when you think about the engine start-stop functionality. This basically pre-charges that forward clutch so that when the engine starts up again, you're not waiting for the transmission. You basically get instantaneous performance from the transmission. We also have faster processing time The transmission controller, the engine controller, the hybrid controller, they're all working together. So we have a faster processing time, and we also have 40 shift maps, basically, that the transmission is determining which one is needed depending on what's happening with the vehicle conditions. Moving on to the transfer case. So we have 2 transfer cases available. One is the driver selectable, and then we also have the on-demand system that senses wheel slip. The Borg-Warner transfer cases have both been upgraded to address the requirements of added capability, so hardware changes, loop changes internal to the transfer cases. As far as our rear axles, we have 3 rear axle ratios that are offered. We already talked about the 6 lug hubs that have been added to address the payload and towing capability increases. The rear axle, you can get open differential, limited slip differential. The new feature here for the Ram in 2019 is that we have an electromagnetic locking differential. So Ryan showed you where the controls were located beneath the rotary switch. So the driver can actually choose to lock the rear differential depending on their conditions and to obviously maximize the torque. That clutch will actually lock up to 50 RPMs, and then it will unlock below 25 miles an hour, and it will stay locked for the driver until they deselect it, basically. Finally, we've added a thermal management system. This is a first in the industry. You don't see the plumbing here, but the rear axle, we've actually added a 3-valve configuration at the front of the dash. And what we do now is that after the interior comfort has been reached in terms of the heater core, the valve shoots coolant back to the rear axle so that we're quickly warming up the rear axle fluid, again, focusing on efficiency. And so that's an enabler to help us improve fuel economy. Similarly, we have a transmission heater that we're also using, again, to quickly heat up the trans fluid. And obviously, these elements are also useful in cooling under high load. The one thing I didn't mention was we've done away with the traditional engine clutch fan driven off the front of the engine. We now have an electric fan. It's an 850 watt fan that is now on the front clip. It's pulse width modulated controls, lower mass, reduces parasitic losses. So again, you can kind of see the theme here. I'd also like to touch on our Pentastar engine here real quickly. So this will be the base engine, and again, it's fitted with the mild hybrid system. So in this configuration, we'll be adding up to 90 pound-feet of torque, or 12 horsepower, again, during the auto start maneuvers. The engine is rated at 305 horsepower, 269 pound-feet of torque. And some of the technology changes, again, variable valve technology, a broad torque range here. You'll have 90% of peak torque between 1800 and 6400 RPM. And then also we've added a 2-step variable valve lift technology, which blends fuel economy and performance. So if the driver demands more performance, that lift position changes and provides the additional power.